Alrighty. Hello, everyone. So I thought for a change of pace today, I would stand in front of the tank, even though I don't think it looks that good. It's not really what I recommend. So I'm going to assume that no one is coming to the stream today because we're getting close to the holidays. And number two, because there's another live stream going on over on Live Aquaria, Tidal Gardens. So with those guys going on, I figured no one's got time for my little stream. So we may have a very small group today. Hey guys, are you able to hear okay? I see. There's a guy on here named Prison Mike. So thanks for logging in from prison. Hi Claudius, Freeman's Aquatics, American Reefing, Anthony Fuentes, Rick B, Rogue Aquariums, Daniel, Anthony Savecki out of Belgium. Hello. Hi, Neil. Today's topic, it's actually, we've never talked about this on a live stream before. Thanks for letting me know. And the sound's not too loud. I can bump that down a little bit more. It seems like last week it was a little bit high. I'm going to try this and see how this works out because I don't want to blow it out when I start talking really well. All right, today's stream, oh, thank you very much. Someone says they like my streams. Today's stream is going to be talking about protein skimmers. And I've done a video reviewing protein skimmers. I've done a video showing how to set them up. We've never just had a conversation about them. So I wanted to get into that today, and I hope that you will, you'll get something out of it. If you've owned a protein skimmer already, I'm hoping that you'll learn something new. And if you've never owned one before, I'm hoping that you will learn a lot. So my tanks always run on protein skimmers. And the temporary time when I don't have a skimmer running is usually only because I'm cleaning it for a day or two, where I take it outside and I run it in vinegar and water. A lot of people asked me recently when they saw pictures, how much of each did you use? So I wanted to get into that. I use 50% vinegar and 50% water. It's not really an important ratio. You could literally do it in 100% vinegar if you wanted, but my skimmer is so large, I would have needed 8 or 10 gallons of vinegar to clean it. So instead, I bought 4 gallons. I tried 2 gallons. It wasn't enough. I put in a total of 4 and added about double the water volume. Put the skimmer right in there, took the cup off and put it in the solution and plugged it in and let it run for basically a day and a half. And then I took it all, back inside because I was outside in an uncomfortable spot. So I wanted to bring it inside where I could work in my sink. Completely took it apart from the top all the way down to the bottom. Took every screw off of it, disassembled, cleaned it completely, reassembled it, reinstalled it in my sump. That type of cleaning is something you should do about once a year. And I don't want you to think, oh my God, that sounds like so much work. Well, I mean, it's maintenance. And it's also a good time to make sure that everything's working right. One of the things that you will see in my, what do I see here? Thank you for the super chat. See, I usually miss those, so it caught my eye. Thank you very much. M. Howe. No, thank you very much, Mike. That's really appreciated. So on the protein skimmer video that's on my channel, I show a piece that pulls out of the body of the skimmer. It's way down low. It goes into the pump itself. And when you remove that, or look where the hose goes in that's sucking in air, that is a very, very important orifice you want to make sure is completely clean. And that is usually where salt builds up. So you want to take that apart. You want to take a pipe cleaner and clean it. You could use a drill bit, just the bit, not a drill, and put it in the hole if it's the right diameter and twist it to carve out any salt creep. You could use a nail set. You could use, if you don't offend anyone in your household and you have those needles that you use to tie the end of a turkey shut, you could take one of those needles and you could poke down in there. Anything that's small enough that'll fit that venturi orifice, make sure it's completely clear. Take a flashlight, look from the side and look down, and then do the same thing. Look through the hole and look through the assembly, and make sure there's no salt creep in there, because that is usually where our skimmers stop running. They can't suck in air, so they no longer skim. The other thing, of course, is to make sure that the pump is operating efficiently. And a lot of times those pumps fail. They start breaking up. The shaft inside the pump could break in half. The impeller could fall off. If you have done something old school where you made your own impeller with mesh material, that was something we did a long time ago trying to make our skimmers more efficient. Make sure the mesh is still attached to the wheel. Your little zip ties might have broken off. that kind of stuff is, you want to make sure the pump functions, you want to make sure the skimmer's clean, and you want to make sure the venturi is not clogged. And if you have a silencer, you want to make sure the silencer isn't clogged up with all kinds of crud either. So that's why this maintenance is so important and why you want to clean it. Now there are itty bitty little tiny skimmers all the way up to ginormous ones like what's under my tank. And I had a reef skimmer that I ran for, what did I say? 14 years? No, 12 years? I don't know. I ran it for a long time. I completely took it apart. I cleaned it up and I saved it in the back room in case this one ever conked out. But I've been running the Nios 1200 on my tank now for, I'd say, about 3 years. Hello from Portugal. I appreciate your greeting, Vasco. Let's talk about skimmers that fit inside a tank versus skimmers that fit inside a sump versus skimmers that hang on the back of a tank. And then we'll talk about how frequently you should run them for how many hours. Hi, Ed. Thanks for asking everyone to do a thumbs up. I appreciate that. I love a skimmer that's in a sump. I mean, that is my absolute preference. If you can set up a tank at all and run plumbing down into a sump and put a skimmer down there, the heater down there, the return pump down there, your probes, you know, hide all the gear underneath, that's fantastic. But you have no choice and this is your cube of water and you have to install all of your equipment across the back, well, then that's what you have to do. And you will need to make sure there's enough room from the wall so you can hang a skimmer behind there. And you need to make sure to protect the wall itself from salt creep damage. Now, this tank is about 2 inches from the wall, and you can see a little, I don't know if you can tell, but there's a little bit of speckles here on the wall because I haven't cleaned it in forever, but I don't have salt damage here. And I think part of the reason is because my water line is 2 inches down from the top, and I put a lid on top of my overflow box. And that lid really keeps algae from growing in there, and it keeps any kind of spatter from spattering. So you want to avoid that. But let's say you had a skimmer on the back of your tank and you have it, you know, there's a pump in here and it's drawing water into the skimmer, it's rumbling away and then it pours back in. One of the tricks that people like to do to make them more quiet is to control how the water flows back into the tank. And one of my methods that I did a long time ago, I found this type of sponge-like material that was sold, I believe, by Eheim. And you know, it's just kind of a cellulose. It's not sponge like washing dishes. It's, you know, more porous than that. And you can cut it with scissors. And I would just take that sponge I cut to the shape I needed and I'd wedge it inside the body of the skimmer where the water's pouring through it. And the water would pour in smooth like glass into my tank and not trickle and tumble and sound like a small fountain or river. So that was one thing. But you had to take out that sponge every single week, rinse it out and put it back in place, or have a couple and swap them out. But if you have a skimmer in the sump down beneath, that is so much better for you because then everything's down there. You can get easy access. You don't have to worry about the weird sound effects, especially if you have a cabinet around there that can trap the sound within. But I know everyone seems to really, really love as quiet a tank as possible. And I really think my tank is very quiet. And part of having a quiet tank is having a quiet skimmer. And with all the skimmers on the market, you may decide, well, what kind do I buy that's going to be quiet enough to make me happy? And then let's say you already bought one, you've spent the money, you're not going to rebuy. What can you do to alleviate the noise that bothers you? So let me tackle that really quickly. If you have a skimmer that's bothering you when it's time to go to sleep, or it's bothering you when you're trying to watch a movie in the living room near your tank, what you can do is you can plug in your skimmer into a mechanical timer. And I'm talking about those timers that have little buttons on them, and you pick how long they should be on. And I'm trying to think how I do it, because I've done this once a million years ago. And I think you set it only to turn on, like somewhere different parts of the 24-hour wheel. And then you physically set it to off, and kind of twist the wheel a little bit to make the skimmer stop. And then the timer will continue to tick, 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 tick forward quietly. And then when it finally hits that little tab, it'll kick the skimmer back on. So basically what you're creating is a delay timer to turn it back on within a certain duration. And you could set it to come back on in 2 hours. Or you could set it to come on in 3 hours. Something like that, where it was long enough to watch a movie, eat dinner, and not be bothered by your protein skimmer. Or you can set it to something shorter, like 30 minutes, because your tank is in your bedroom, and you want to have some silence to fall asleep, But then as soon as you're sound asleep, that thing can come back on because you don't care. It'll just rumble away. It doesn't matter. And it can just do its thing all night. Some people ask, can you run the skimmer only during the daytime and not at night? And I actually think that's the backwards way of doing it. I think skimmers should run at night at the very least, if you're going to do that, and then off during the daytime for, I don't know why. But when your oxygen levels drop in the tank, removing the skimmer from the equation actually removes the opportunity for more oxygen in the tank. So I would actually recommend not to do that. And you know the oxygen levels are lower because late at night your pH is lower. And you don't have the benefit of photosynthesis from all the lighting that's hitting the corals that are creating, and I say corals, but algae as well, especially algae. We want photosynthesis, and we get that kind of reaction. There's actually algae within all of our corals and anemones. It's called zooxanthellae. I'm sure I said that wrong because I know how to type it, but not to say it. Zooxanthellae? Zooxanthellae. That's it. If you, no, that's weird. No, it's running. These things were barely moving. I thought, why is that vortex off? Sorry, got distracted. If the algae that's within the corals and within the tissue of the anemones, that right there is a actual photosynthetic reaction. And so you do benefit from the release, and it brings the pH up during the daytime. But then when the lights are out, all that goes to sleep, it goes dormant, and there's no benefit at night. So having the skimmer running at night helps keep the oxygen levels up a little bit higher. All right. Now, I talked about when to run it, how to clean it, where to run it. Let me mention this, that the skimmer itself should be inside the skimmer section of your sump. And I really ideally recommend it's the first spot where water pours in. And that goes completely against the new Triton method that everyone is employing these days, where they have the water dump into a refugium, then it goes to a skimmer section, and then a return. I mean, that's just, it's going to be your preference. I mean, obviously, if that's what you're going to go with, then it's the next zone. But we want it to be in a zone of water where the water level never changes height. So if you have water pouring into a sump and water flows across and hits some baffles and goes to the next zone, this zone here would be the same height all the time, no matter what, except during a power outage. And you put your body of skimmer in there, or your skimmer body stands in there, and it's sitting at this exact height, which could be somewhere between 8 and 10 inches deep. Keep it at that point all the time, and your skimmer should really behave 90% of the time. Occasionally it'll go a little bit crazy, and I'll get into that in a moment. But when you set it up into that zone where the water never changes, the skimmer does its job. But if you put in a different zone where the water level is going down to evaporation and gets shallower and shallower, the water inside the body of the skimmer also drops down as well, which brings the mass of foam lower, so it's no longer exporting. So we really want it in a spot where the water level is always the same height all the time. Let me think where I was going with that. I'll look at your questions too. Okay, let's change gears to operational method of the skimmer as well, because that kind of goes some of the questions popping up on the screen. The neck of the skimmer, that is the part that is connected beneath the cup itself. The neck has to be clean on the inside all the time. And I recommend, I mean, boy, years ago, before I bought my skimmer swabby, I would take the collection cup off every single day, wash it out, wash the inside of the neck, and put it back on the body. Every day, that was my thing. Every single day. I fed the tank and I cleaned the skimmer cup. And I felt like that was the best efficiency for my tank. And I always had a great looking tank. So I feel like that's a good method. But Avast Marine came out with a skimmer swabby, which is an amazing device that I just adore. And it cost me a couple $100. And it fits in the lid of your collection cup. There's a motor on top, it has to be plugged into something, and the motor comes on a timer. And you know, I mentioned, oh, by the way, okay, I'll come back to it. The timer itself would turn on your skimmer swabby to run, you know, a minute or two every 3 hours. So that way it's wiping the neck of the skimmer with a squeegee. And I don't know, I might grab the collection cup and bring it over here and somehow hold it up for you guys and show you this up close. But not right this second. And that squeegee cleaning the neck keeps that job from me. I don't have to clean my cup every single day anymore. Now it does it for me automatically 8 times a day at night. and once a week I will remove the cup like I'd like to do now. It actually is kind of a little bit dirty, and I'd like to go ahead and clean it in the sink and kind of reset it for the new week. But if you are just taking the cup off and pouring it out and putting it back on top of your skimmer, you're doing it a disservice. You have to clean the inner neck where all that sludge is building up. And I wanted to also talk about the fact that whenever you clean a skimmer, do not feel like, oh no, I gotta deal with a break-in period again, because you do not. Skimmers don't have break-in periods. I know people say that. It's some kind of a weird myth, and I have used probably 10 skimmers in my experience in this hobby for 20 years. I've never had a break-in skimmer. I put them in the sump, I turn them on, and they started skimming. And I don't understand, other than maybe there was oils on the plastic, but if you buy something brand new, wash it really quick, put it together, stick it in there. I didn't have any kind of weird surprises, so I don't understand the whole break-in thing. If your skimmer is standing in too much water, remember we were talking about that water level being the right height, and you can look up your protein skimmer on many websites. You can, usually you go to the website selling that skimmer, and it'll list the specs. It'll say it's this wide, this deep, this tall, and it'll say it uses this much power, it uses this pump, and it says, and this is the recommended water depth. You want to know that, and then you want to make sure that your skimmer is sitting at that right depth. And if it's not, then you need a skimmer stand. And that I have handy. So this is an oversized skimmer stand, very large, to fit inside a Red Sea system, and we wanted to raise it up 6 inches, and I almost finished it. It's glued, I just have to polish it up and peel off the paper. But this one is for a very big skimmer, and the reason it's so large is they want the skimmer here and they want the big pump on the end supporting it all. It's sitting on 6 inches of height, which brings it to the right depth of water in the sump so that it operates at peak efficiency. I make skimmer stands all the time. Typically they're 20 bucks. This one was a little bit higher because it's a little bit bigger. And it's a great way to get the skimmer to the proper depth. Let me go get a collection cup. I'll be right back. So this collection cup came off of my Nio skimmer under the frag system. It's got a lid that you can wash the underside of, you can wash the inside of the cup, and then you would clean the inside of the neck. And that is very important, and not just the top part of the neck, but the bottom part of the neck too. This is just cleaned 2 days ago, so it actually looks pretty decent. I'll go get the bigger one. That's going to take me a little bit longer. Okay, so this is the one. It's been around a long time. It's got electrical tape holding the motor together. This one sits on the Nios 1200. And this part, whoa, ooh, scary. Oh my God, I'm making such a mess. I knew this was gonna happen because it's all wet. All right, let me do this. The first rule of electricity is don't spill skimmate all over it. I'm cleaning off my power strip here. It just happened to be sitting in the exact right spot to get hit by this hose. Super annoying. You know what? Let me drain this thing a little bit better. Sorry, guys. I thought it was empty. All right. That's better. What a mess I made. What a mess. Now, you still with me? This is a skimmer swabby. So I had them actually make the lid for mine just because I didn't want to deal with DIY. I said, just build it, send it to me. So they did. And it's got the motor on top inside this section here. It's got a regular plug, grounded. It's got a very large squeegee, and of course this post. and then I clean this completely. I take a credit card and I scrape that all off the inside. I try never to get water into the motor, and I have had to replace the motor 3 times in, I don't know, 8 or 9 years. And I guess I'll put this right here. Then I'm going to keep dripping. I can just tell. When you're looking inside the cup, this would be the obvious part we would clean. But this is the part you got to clean, and the outer rim of it, of course. We just want to get all the crap out of the system and into the body of the cup or drain into a waste collector. So make sure you're cleaning the inside all the way down. And what you can do is use something as simple as a toilet brush. And just get in there and just plunge away, clean it really well. This is an all plastic one, so you don't have to worry about getting any kind of metals in your water. All right, let me go put this back now that I've made such a mess. Be right back. And I need to reconnect that drain line that I dripped all over the place. I hope that visual helped you a little bit. I did mention a waste collector. So why not bring it on camera? This is my waste collector. That's the Skimmade in there right now. That's pulled out over the last, oh, I don't know, 6, 7 days. And if you look inside, well, how do I, again, watch me spill this. All right, I got it. Inside is a float switch. When the switch rises, it triggers a signal to my controller, the Apex, which then turns off the protein skimmer's pump so no more skimming can come out. I'm putting this down before something happens. All right, I'm back, guys. All right. Boy, that was actually a workout. Alrighty, so talked about cleaning the skimmer, talked about cleaning the maintenance of the skimmer, talked about not breaking in a skimmer, talked about, oh, when to run the skimmer, yes. Talked about location on a tank, and how are we doing on time? We're doing good. What am I neglecting? Oh, should you turn off a skimmer when you're feeding your tank? You definitely could. And so that's the other part. Remember I was talking about the mechanical timer trick? I actually made this gizmo years ago with a little tiny circuit board. I had some people give me advice how to make this thing, and I thought, oh, I'm going to sell these. I'm going to be rich. And then I never proceeded to make it because it was such a pain in the butt. But it was a device that I made a black acrylic box, of course, out of acrylic, because I work with acrylic. And I put a button on the top. And you push the button down, and it sent a signal to the little motherboard inside that had a countdown timer, and the skimmer was plugged into that box. And then basically after I had set the thing, I think to 15 minutes or 45 minutes, and after the timer on that little motherboard hit its time, it just started the power back up to the skimmer, and the skimmer would stay on until I hit the button again. And that was my feed button, so that was convenient for me. If you run a controller, you might have a feed mode. And with feed mode, you may be turning your Vortec off or your gyre. But what you should be turning off is your skimmer. And I would really recommend you turn off your return pump, especially if the skimmer's in the sump. And that way, all the food stays in the tank and blows everywhere because all those pumps are still going, but you don't drain water into the sump anymore. You don't send your brand new food into the body of the skimmer or onto the floor of your sump or into a filter sock. So I would recommend feed mode is used to turn off the skimmer and possibly, hopefully, the return pump. And then after 10 minutes or so, it just turns back on. If you are feeding things like phytoplankton, different zooplanktons, you might want to leave it off a total of an hour. And again, you have to remember to turn it back on. So you're going to have to find a way to re-enable it. You could use the mechanical timer trick I talked about, where basically you switch it manually to off and the timer keeps counting until it clicks, it hits one of those tabs and brings the power back on. And basically, every tab on that timer, just to reiterate, because I don't know if I made it clear before, just make everything to on, all the way around the clock. So you find the dead spot on the wheel where it's off, and it's off. And it clicks forward and it goes to on. And then it'll just always be on because it keeps hitting on tabs all the time. There is no off until you physically do the off button. I hope that makes a little bit of sense. If you can, and you're smart, you can create a virtual switch in your Apex, and you can always ask people for help with this. There's a lot of help online. And with a virtual switch, you can basically tell the Apex to defer for the amount of period you want to wait, which could be 15 minutes to 1 hour, and it waits that long and then it turns that outlet back on. So that would be another method. The third method is to just tell your phone, hey Android, remind me to turn my skimmer on in 1 hour. And then, when the thing tells you, you go and you turn it on. But just try not to forget. Try to remember to keep that skimmer running. All right, so yeah, see that it has completely stopped. I guess it's time for me to see what's going on with the MP40. I told you it was not moving very much, and it's actually off right now. Very weird. I do not know. What a weird coincidence. Hey, it just came back onto life. It may be time, I've had that MP40 for a long time, it may be time for me to replace that pump. It may be to that point where it's in trouble. Okay, I see the question come up. I did see this before. Wet skimming versus dry skimming. So let's talk about that. The frag system is essentially wet skimming. It is pulling out a full cup every single day of not really dark skimmate. It's like iced tea. And I would just go ahead and, that's what I'm letting that happen. I'm letting it just skim out that much a day. I adjusted it slightly just to quite not fill up as fast. And there's a gizmo that CoralView sells, and I cannot remember the name. I think it's by Auto Aqua, maybe, the brand. And they have a sensor that you can put inside the collection cup itself if you can't do a waste collector like I did. And essentially, when the sensor gets wet, it stops the skimmer. And I'm kind of thinking about buying one for that little tiny skimmer. Though really what I should do is make a waste collector, add a breakout box, and let the Apex handle it. It's just really what's convenient. Plus it's an item I haven't tried before, so I'm kind of thinking, I want to buy that. And I believe they're like $60, so it's not like a huge expense. And see, now I'm all obsessed with my MP40. I'll look at that when we're done with the live stream for sure and see what's going on. It may be time to just take it apart and clean it again. Let's see. Now, if you were to dry skim, what that means basically is you get very little liquid in the collection cup and you tend to get a lot of sludge, especially on the neck, possibly the lid of your skimmer, and some crud building up in the cup, but not very much. It really comes down to how much work you want to do. If you wet skim heavily, in other words, it's really pouring water over on a regular basis, you're essentially setting up a mini water change system. The problem is, as quickly as it's dumping water into the cup, odds are your top-off system will be adding water to replace it, which could affect salinity on your tank. So you want to make sure you're dialing in the amount of skimming coming out to not affect salinity on the tank. And so I'm wet skimming, I kind of just want medium skimming, if that makes sense. I want to get crud out. And you saw what was in that waste collector, that much liquid, that was like a week's worth. That's not much on a 450-gallon system. But if I was pulling that much out every single day, that's a whole other situation. So I would tell you to, see, it stopped again. Yeah, I'm gonna have to find out what's going on with the MP40. Thanks for pointing that out to me. I'm glad we looked at this today. I guess it does pay off to show the tank in the video. Alrighty. David L is here. Hello. Let's see. What else we got going on here? You know what? At this point, I think I've kind of covered it. Why don't you just ask me more skimmer-related questions so I can answer them in case I missed something? You guys are funny. I see a lot of comments. The anemone, the anemone, the anemone. It's okay. It's okay. While I'm waiting for your questions, I will mention that I literally love my Nio skimmer because it's so quiet. I can unplug it and plug it in and I just don't hear it. And so is the one I recommend to a lot of people these days. Brian Simpson asks, I just bought the Nios 120. What's a good water height for that skimmer chamber? The 120. I think it's 8 inches. So that means your baffle should be 7.5 inches tall so that the water rises up to get over the baffle into the next section, which gets you right at 8 inches. But double check. Make sure that that information is correct. I have somewhere that kind of information on my hard drive, but I'm doing a live stream right now. I can't pull it up. Yeah, good comment. Someone said you could use Alexa. And I'm sure you could call Alexa up and say, remind me to do this, or turn this off, or turn this on, or maybe turn this back on in 20 minutes. Is that such a thing? Does that exist yet? I don't know. I will mention this to you. One of the tricks of my feed mode, which is this big yellow button down here, I hold that in. It stops the return pump from pushing water back into the tank. So my Abyss pump down there shuts off. No water comes in, no water drains down. The protein skimmer turns off, and after 10 minutes, the return pump comes on, and then 5 minutes after that, the skimmer comes on. And the reason I did that was so the extra water sitting in the sump from being off gets all pumped back up to the tank where it belongs before the skimmer starts. Otherwise, if both come on at the exact same time, what happens is the body of skimmer sitting in too much water, it tries to overflow for the first minute or so, or 2 minutes. So instead, by delaying the skimmer turning back on for 5 minutes, or 4 minutes, or 3 minutes, something like that, it will allow the water line to get level in the sump again to where it normally sits, and you won't have any surprises. Now, let me mention this, because I didn't talk about barometric pressure yet, and that is an important one. You can be inside your house, watching TV, reading a book, whatever you're doing, and be completely oblivious to the weather outside. But your protein skimmer is always aware of it. And I know that sounds insane, but it's 100% true. I can be in my house just working, got music playing, and I happen to glance out the window and it's pouring rain outside. And I'm like, what? I didn't even know it was going to rain today. And it's just coming down. That type of change in climate can affect the barometric pressure of your area, and your house is not a bubble that's sealed. The barometric pressure is coming through the walls of your home, the air in your room, and it affects the pressure inside your protein skimmer, and can make a skimmer erupt, or it can make the bubbles collapse. Just depends on what's going on with the barometric pressure. Boy, the more I say that, the weirder it sounds. So I'm going to tell you that you want to make sure that you set your skimmer to the right height, so that way it doesn't overflow when weather comes in and makes crazy changes. Robert asks, he has a Nios 160. It's been skimming well for months, but lately the cup keeps filling up with foam. So much foam that some comes out of the vent holes in the lid. Any idea why this is happening? Well, I don't know what changed for many months to now. Maybe you've decided to add some new thing to your tank on a regular basis, some kind of an element, some kind of a food, and it could be affecting, like maybe you change from one food to another food. It could be you said, oh, I want to add amino acids to my system. It could be you decide to put one of those bricks in your sump. There's a lot of things that we quietly do and don't really think about and think they have nothing to do with anything else that can affect a protein skimmer. I would say clean the skimmer completely and clean the venturi completely. Make sure that it's not obstructed. But you're getting a lot of foam, so that's a good sign. It sounds like it's almost too dry. It needs to be a little bit wetter. Buddy had a cure for his in-tank skimmer. He threw it as far away as he possibly could and got an external one. So yeah, I really do like in-sump skimmers. Have you worked out how to clean the inside of the tube besides the body of the Nios? No, I have not. It drives me nuts. I really don't like that you cannot clean that little riser tube where you adjust the knob to control the plunger that affects the water line in the body of the big skimmer. I've tried a lot of stuff, and on my last cleanings, you know, because I ran it in vinegar, it was all filled with vinegar, and I shook it really hard, and I did what I could, but man, it's like they glued something together that should really be pressed together or screwed together so that we can disassemble and clean it. That is the one part of the skimmer I can't clean. I kind of wish I could. It just kind of bothers me. It doesn't affect operation whatsoever, but it, you know, if I'm going to clean everything, I want to clean everything. Let's see. The one thing I forgot to tell you guys on the collection cup when I had it, I'm going to go get it one more time. I'm going to get the small one though. When you're setting the water level inside your skimmer, you know, you're twisting the knob or you're twisting the big pipe or however you're affecting the change, you're going to, as you change the output of your protein skimmer, the water in the body will rise higher and higher and higher or drop lower and lower and lower. And then of course on the top is foam that may be this tall or this tall. You know, it just depends how much air is getting into the body of the skimmer. What I usually recommend, I'm going to put this right down here. Here's your protein skimmer. I would get the foam to where it's bubbling right here. Not the water. I'm not trying to get the water to that point. I'm trying to get the foam to bubble right here. That is my perfect spot. And that's what I recommend for most people with their skimmers. Get the foam right here, right now, and then check on it, of course, you know, in a few hours. Check on it after you feed. Check on it well after you fed. You know, just make sure things are going all right. But usually if you foam right about this point here on the collection cup, then you'll see the foam building up, and then eventually it comes into the cup. Or it'll come down a little bit. That's okay. But I really like this target level. That is pretty much what I tell everyone to do. And that's what's on my website, too, with some pictures. Okay. So, guys, what did I forget to talk about? Now's your chance. Ah, thank you. Someone complimented me on my shirt. I got it at Comic-Con. Fred asks, what is a good indicator that the skimmer we bought was too small? That's actually a good question. Protein skimmers these days tend to be rated properly for our tanks. In the old days, they'd make these claims that just really didn't match reality. And so we were always buying skimmers bigger than our tank. In other words, not volume size, but for example, 400-gallon tank, you want an 800-gallon skimmer. You know, you wanted something that could really handle it. You know, it's at least 1.5 times the size of your tank. You know, so 600, 800. For a 60-gallon tank, you would probably want something for 125 or 180, you know, because you wanted to really make sure that you were getting the crud out of the water. These days, I find that the skimmers tend to be correct. And if they say they're rated for, you know, an 80-gallon tank or 60-gallon tank, they tend to be on track pretty closely. I think they've gotten better about that. But maybe I'm living in a dream world and it's really all about marketing and they just say, we want to make this much money. I don't know. But if you have a skimmer that's too small, I would say that your water parameters are not going to stay very stable. You're going to have a lot of algae problems, and you're going to be constantly cleaning out the cup. That would be my guess. And if the skimmer is way too big, which it is possible to do, then you hardly pull anything out at all. And you end up, you know, you have this foam, but it never pushes any crud into the cup. It just seems like it can't pick up enough crap because it's just way too big a tank, too big a skimmer. So I'd like to aim people toward the right size skimmer that matches their tank whenever possible. This question asks, is it based on total water volume or is it on the tank volume? Typically, whatever sump you have under your tank equals to the amount that was displaced by sand and rock. So I would say tank size. But if you have a massive sump because you had tons of room, so let's you know, like Jimmy Pop Colson, his tank was a 500-gallon tank, and he had like a 400 or 600-gallon sump underneath. You know, that's very unusual. And of course, because that giant sump was under there, all his equipment was in the adjacent bathroom. So, that's not a common sump. But if you're putting a normal size sump that fits under a tank, usually the amount of water in that sump equals the amount of sand and rock that's in the display tank. And then keep in mind too that the measurement, and we did a video about this last week about what's the actual water volume of your tank. This is a 400-gallon tank, but internally it doesn't even hold close to 400 gallons. It's more like 330 because of the inside measurements of the glass versus the outside measurements of the glass. So, my tank is 30 inches tall, but I really have 24 inches of water. You lose on the bottom, you lose on the top because you don't fill it to the brim. So you have less water. All right. Someone says the stream is lagging. How is that possible? We've been doing so well lately. Trying to remember if the Nios 120 is the smallest one. The smallest one would do fine for a 40-gallon. I've got mine on a 60-gallon. I think the 120 is the smallest one. And I'm sorry, guys, you're asking me very specifics. Is this one rated for that size tank? Anytime someone asks me a question, I look it up. I go and I verify, I look in Google, so I'm just going to tell you to do the exact same thing. Jump on Google and take a look at those and see what those are rated for to see if they match your tank. Apologize. Yes, that is correct. Someone just said, Reefing with O said, I just joined, but oversized skimmers won't give us stable foam head, and that's what I was saying. Do you have any opinions on downdraft skimmers? I think what you're talking about when you say downdraft, you're referring to Beckett skimmers, and that is an old school system that still is being used, especially in public aquariums, because they last forever, and you have to clean out that Beckett injector. Just like the AquaSea skimmer has a clover leaf injector, and I used to take mine apart and clean it every 2 or 3 months because Stomatella snail shell, the back of the snail, the shell, would get stuck in there. And I'd have 5 or 6 in there and my skimmer wouldn't skim. It's possible that the volume is changing because it may be trying to do noise cancellation to not pick up the sounds of the tank. Because I keep stop talking. I'm not just like talking nonstop without, any lag whatsoever. I'm stopping to think. So I apologize for that. Let's talk about something new. I just got this in the mail. I'm going to hide my name here. No, it doesn't really matter. You guys will just Google it or whatever, but haha. I like that it said, it's for the big tank. So this is from VCA. He sent this to me at least 2 weeks ago. It finally arrived like 2 days ago. And they are going to go on my tank. Oh, look, there's all kinds of stuff in here. So what I am getting here specifically, here's the contents of the box. So what I have here in my hand is a random flow nozzle to replace my penductor. And this fitting was 3D printed. So this will just, I almost did it wrong. This presses onto here. Oh, I love doing things on camera for the first time. Yeah, presses on there. This will thread into this guy right here. That is my nozzle right now. And inside of it, you can see there's little spinny blades in there. They don't move, obviously, because it's 3D printed. But what this does is it makes the water turn. And according to them, all their research, the water keeps moving and it keeps changing and going to a different channel. So it's constantly, it's like shooting this way, then it shoots this way, then it shoots this way. It's kind of doing this weird clockwise thing. So he sent me a couple of these to put on my tank. Now I'm going to try them out. There's also some other stuff in here. Looks like a bunch of different tubing holders, like clips to hold tubes together. And they're in different colors. They came in orange and white and black. So this right here is going to replace, and this I can show you. I think I have enough wire to do this. I may not. Let's see if I can do this. This may not work out very well. Woohoo! All right, there's a lot going on here. I need to kind of get myself arranged a little bit better here before I do this. Oh my God, I'm going to drop my laptop. I can just see this flying. Let me do a pivot really quick here to give myself a little bit more cord. All right, and let me grab that nozzle. So if you look, whew, okay, there, that's actually perfect. This is the new one. So it's going to screw in right there. And this has, move Spock, 1, 2, well, it's got 2 knuckles and then the front part, plus the threaded nut, which is this piece here. And this has 1 knuckle. So it's actually going to be a little less space consuming in my tank. And so I'm going to try those out this week. It's kind of cool. Yeah, it took a long time to get here. The post office had a heck of a time finding my address that's been the same since '99. Can you believe I've been living in this place since '99? Oh, sorry. I'm trying to make sure you don't have to look at my empty tree. I still haven't decorated it. I have been too busy working. Oh my God. I have been working myself on the ground. I was working for one person and he said, Mark, I am not used to this level of productivity. What is the deal? I have been working around the clock. I've been eating, sleeping, and working. And this week, I was able to get out 50 orders. And I've got a few of you still waiting on stuff, and I know it. And I've not forgotten. I've got a lot of stuff cut out. I got to start gluing. I'm going to be gluing today, gluing tomorrow, gluing Monday. So I get these orders out. I got people waiting for sumps and triple dosing containers and Vortec driver brackets and all kinds of stuff. I did want to oh, there's something I want to show you. Okay, I'll be right back again. I almost forgot to talk about this. Hopefully the microphone still works, even though I walked away so far. Can you hear me still? Let me know. All right, so I'm assuming the volume works. I got these in stock now. I have 10 of these in stock, and I've had people ask me if I could sell them. So I will add them to my website today. And my website, of course, is going to do FedEx shipping, which is going to be whatever ground costs. But this guy I can ship in a padded envelope for $7.50. So if you buy this from my website, like I said, there's only 10. If you buy it, and just know I will refund you the difference to get the shipping the right amount, so you're not paying top dollar for shipping. And you know, these things are really nice. You can never have anything handy when I need it. Never have anything handy. So here is mine that I got at Wrap. Dirty. It's all covered in dust because it's been sitting on my little table to keep it nice and clean. So of course dust gets on it. So you've got your big magnifying glass. And it's got a magnetic holder that holds on. And then you just put it on your tank. And then you can move it where you want to look at things that are up close. So like I could look at my little walking dendro down there. Let's grab that and show it to you really quick. It's going to be really blue though. So we're going to do this. See if this works. There he is. He's behind a snail shell, of course, because why would we make this easy to see on live camera? And there's my second walking dendro right there. So without the magnifier, it's that far away, obviously. Bring it in. I don't know. To the eye, it's amazing. I don't know if it's going to work with a webcam, guys, but I'm able to look at things and really appreciate what they look like. Of course, the blue is not helping either, but it's able to get a good look. And you can put this anywhere you want. Depending on the thickness of your glass, you can even have it right side up. And then, of course, you know, you can do it this way if you need to, or you just hold it if you need to just hold it because your glass is so thick. But it's been very beneficial for me, and I've really enjoyed it. I've been actually studying the critters in my sand bed. I'll look in there and see what's going on inside the sand. So, like I said, I got 10 of these things. So if you want to order one, they'll be on my website later today, and you can then just get one, and that way I can get rid of it. I do want to thank you all for being such great customers the last few months. I actually have my first implant tooth in here, and $5,000 later, I have a tooth. I have to do another one, but I'm going to wait till January. I still need to make more money. So any kind of times you buy things from me, it just helps me pay the oral surgeon. And God, I hope you literally believe me and don't think it's some kind of a ploy or some kind of a trick, because it's not. I just, you know, I paid the bills already, but a dental thing, that's not a bill. That's like a humongous surprise bill that you don't want. And so thank you for purchasing from me. And like I said, in the beginning when I talked about this a couple of months ago, I did not do a GoFundMe. I didn't say send me free money. I said buy things that you can use on your aquarium and help me pay the oral surgeon. And you guys have been really helpful, and it's awesome. Thank you so much for doing that. So a few of you have ordered really big orders. It's brought in a bunch of money, which was great. And to let me, of course, I had to spend money on shipping and on materials like all the acrylic to build a sump and all those kind of things. But the profit margin has risen to where I can afford to pay these people for what they do. And I'll tell you this, the funny thing about an implant tooth, okay, I'll tell you two things about it. Two things. Number one, now that I've got this fake tooth bolted to the jawbone of my mouth, when I chew on that side, which I haven't chewed on that side in 20 years because it was just no teeth up there, it is like chewing on a dead spot. It's like a black hole. I think when we eat in our mouths, we can kind of feel things making contact with your teeth as you bite. But that spot there, it's like there's nothing there, but it's still chewing. It's really weird. And then the second thing, which even my dentist didn't know, because she was drilling like the bottom tooth and the top tooth to kind of make them touch properly. She'd work on the bottom tooth and, you could hear it in your head. It's an unpleasant, I hate the drill. But when she hit that thing, oh my God, the thing's like an antenna. And it was 10 times louder because she's hitting the fake tooth that hits the titanium post that's embedded in your jawbone, that's connected to your ear bone. Super unbelievably loud. And when you already are stressed about dentists and that thing is just going through your skull, oh my God, it's horrible. And so I let her know, and she had no idea. She goes, I didn't know that. I'm like, wait till you get your first implant. Someone starts drilling on it. It's not pleasant. So unfortunately, I'm going to have another one on this side, which means 2 black holes when I'm chewing. I have a third funny thing about getting an implant tooth. And I'm sure some of you guys are like, I don't care about this, but I'm just sharing. It's my channel. My tongue hasn't had any teeth on the top on that side for so long. I don't know if my tongue got wider or got used to the space, but now my tongue feels crowded by this tooth, which is kind of funny. So anyway, that's it. That's my crazy stories about teeth. Michael asks, why is the price so high? Man, I have no idea. I can't stand it. A regular root canal and crown is somewhere around $2,400 here. And if you get an implant, it's basically $5,000. It's $4,000 to the oral surgeon and $1,200 to the dentist. So that's, $5,200 actually. And it's been, I just had to pay it. I had to get this fixed. I had no choice. I needed something to chew on. Okay, someone makes a comment. Be careful with sand and scratching the glass. That's the same with any kind of cleaning magnet, and you're not using this to clean. And as you can see, this thing is way above the sand, and this is on the outside of the tank. So I don't see the problem. A couple of people said they didn't like the size of the magnet on the inside, but again, this is a viewing piece that's in your tank temporarily. I don't know that I would leave it on the tank. Matter of fact, I will not leave it on the tank all the time. You saw me go get it from where I kept it safe. But when I do want to use it, I stick it on there. I've actually put this on my 400, which has 3/4 inch glass, and it barely holds, but it does hold. So, and then another thing you can do, if again, big tank and you're worried about falling off, you could put your cleaning magnet underneath it to kind of like support it. Or you can keep your hand on the darn thing so you don't drop it. I mean, use some common sense, obviously. But, and I think they're $30. It's either $30 or $35. Whatever the right price is, that's what's going to be on my website. All right. Jesse says, what else would you like me to buy? Oh my God, let's get you some more stuff. No, Jesse, I appreciate your orders. I really do. Alrighty. Let's see. Someone just said if I was local to them, they would make my implant crown. That would have been awesome. All right. Well, anyway, that's where things lie for now. That's the end of the stream, everyone. Today is Water Test Saturday. Please test your water today. Don't just listen to me and say, I'll do it. Actually physically do it. I'm going to test mine. I want to make sure everything's okay. I literally had the worst dream this morning that all the montipores in my tank were dying. I mean, there was like these huge colonies, and the whole middle was just bone white. And I did not like waking up from that. Matter of fact, it kind of led to a stress headache, which made me a little bit grumpy. And I walked out here, my tank was fine, thank God. But I was just like, oh, and the problem was in the dream, I could not ascertain what had caused the problem. Of course, analyzing the dream, I said, well, the tank must have got too hot because I can't let it go. But no, test your water mark your results. Reef Trace just rolled out a brand new version of their app again. So the newest version should be available to download. If it's not available right this minute, I bet by Monday it'll be available. And one of the things I asked them to add to it, so they have, is now it has Face ID. So if you have some kind of a Face ID on your phone, whether it's iPhone, I don't know if Android does that yet. I think they do. Or maybe it's a thumbprint ID. Oh, you know what? I think this is for iPhones right now first. I think iPhone gets the first update. So for those of you that want to log in with Face ID instead of actually putting in a password or logging with Facebook, you can now use Face ID. So that is now built in. And I want to let you know about that. That app is $3.99 to let you track your parameters, find the local fish stores within a 45-minute radius of wherever you are. You can even move that marker to where you're going to go, and it'll look in that area for whatever's in that area. It has my critter ID in there, so you can pull up critters easily. It's got Marketplace. It's got notes, which is super handy, and it's got reminders. And I love the reminders because they come up as notifications on my home screen. I flip up my phone and look at it, and it says change GAC today, or it's time to dose Prodibio today, those kind of things. So that's really convenient. So I do recommend that. If you post your water results online, please do hashtag water testing, hashtag post your results at melevsreef. I would love to see you guys over at Club Melevsreef on Facebook, which is facebook.com/group/melevsreef. I'm giving you all this information really fast. And of course, I'm on Instagram as well, which is going to be instagram.com/melevsreef, where you can see pretty pictures and short video clips. I showed a new version of the Peacemaker that I made this week for a client, and I showed it to another client who wanted one as well, and he said he loved it, so he wants that version for his rimless tank. So that is a really nice new addition that will be going to my website shortly. So thank you guys for following me along and buying things for me so that I can pay my bills. I always appreciate that. And today is the 15th. I think there will be a live stream next Saturday. So that's not on a holiday. So unless you guys are out shopping for last minute gifts, I think I'll see you guys next Saturday. And other than that, I hope you have a great weekend, and I will talk to you guys really soon.